Hi, we are Grigori Gharveyn. This is part 3 of our current project, Our Future History, How the Earth Made Peace. Part 3, Parallelism and Scope. When we consider the evolution of world peace, we must understand that both our awareness of cultural defense mechanisms and the primacy of mutually conserving cultural diversity were powerful social forces still in their relative infancies. These were dynamic social systems driving change that our ancestors sometimes could only barely understand. Our ancestors were helped to understand the emerging mimetic landscapes upon which their real wars were actually being waged by advancements in metacognitive programming made possible through simple meditations. Our ancestors were helped to come to agreement that all peoples' cultural heritage, and perhaps particularly their most cherished holy scriptures, all deserve to be conserved, and that any conservatorship must be a mutual responsibility for mutual benefit. With these few simple steps, something incredible was about to happen. A synergistic response that emerged as the new umbrella mimetic agencies evolved more rapidly under pressures from their hosts and their hosts' emotional and cognitive environments. Parallelism emerged as a strategy whereby umbrella agencies co-opted more and more reactive root algorithms to mediate the behavioral responses triggered by these root algorithms. The goal of this process was to de-escalate defensive and aggressive posturing that might ordinarily result when various threat triggers were activated. As aggressive and defensive posturing lessened, higher cognitive functions were enabled that had been suppressed by a constant state of fear. One successful meditation technique to help correct this condition was specifically focused on simple visualization techniques to excise synapses where they were overdeveloped by excitation that created an escalating fear feedback loop. Parallelism provided a means for umbrella agencies to radiate their mediation systems into non-related mimetic agencies that used mechanisms related to familiar mediated mechanisms by their parallel evolution. Traits of logic always radiate. Once a single behavior is learned, we learn to apply that behavior to all other situations we meet. Trial and error teaches us when this is a successful strategy, and those successful strategies reinforce their initial logic progenitors as well as reinforcing their kindred logic and their children collectively. So parallelism is a process of building successful strategies that radiate and become unique applications in context to new specific environmental triggers. This results in many different applications of logic, all of which are related to each other by learning processes, by evaluating competing strategies by thought experimentation or trial and error. Consequently, most people's minds are prefabricated in the sense that each person's mind consists of learned associations that inform each other and reinforce each other and pressure the evolution of their mind and cognitive resources to independently follow similar lines of development, regardless of many environmental pressures. Some environmental conditions can accelerate or inhibit this progress of cognitive evolution. When we consider parallelism, we discover a paradigm shift appears. When we consider parallelism, we find that what once was a nearly unimaginable scope, the conservation of all people's cultural heritage and diversity, becomes much simpler. In essence, all patterns that can be codified by humans in any symbolic or linguistic form may be compressed in a manner similar to data compression algorithms. The compression defines the differentials of state between one culture and another regarding the same information. These differentials can be measured by the cultural activities of their human hosts. What we are talking about here are human memories. Human memories are the best storage substrate for human culture for its conservation and sharing. However, what we are talking about here is the creation of a human collective consciousness archive. Every person in our civilization today has universal access to this memory archive. The cognitive software that has always maintained our human memories has evolved in our civilization to enable the creation of this collective consciousness data archive, and to make access for any person simply a matter of asking within themselves for whatever they may desire to know or to experience. Our ancestors pioneered this evolution, an evolution that changed our entire world forever, or so we may hope. All children go through the same cognitive development stages as their most immediate ancestors and their most ancient ancestors. Their individual cognitive developments parallel the evolution of our cognitive development as a species. Today, our children learn how their minds actually work at very early ages. They learn how to discipline their minds in ways that accelerate their spiritual and cognitive developments. Yet every child is privileged to express their advancements through any cultural artifacts which excite their growth the most in their own hearts and minds. Most children choose to follow in their parents' footsteps. This is a natural process because their parents are their sources of love, wisdom, trust, and nurture. Our ancestors were not so fortunate as we are today. During the time when world peace was only beginning to emerge, our ancestors were still sorting through the parallel qualities of their respective holy scriptures, their sources of their laws. Without techniques to help them communicate around their respective cultural defense mechanisms, little progress seemed to be being made. Many people grew frustrated with the prolonged negotiations of the peace process. People were still afraid of perceived threats to their cultural identities. Diversity seemed to be diminishing under pressure to conform to one or another of the dominant emerging global cultures. In fact, diversity was accelerating as more and more people became better self-informed and became more unique in their opinions and beliefs. Even following global trends, mass audiences were having very unique personal experiences filtered by themselves in context to themselves that were helping shape a new kind of global and individual self-awareness. The scope of the world peace movement suddenly became unlimited. Messages of peace and how to achieve world peace proliferated, inspiring a greater and greater global unity for world peace. This was how world peace evolved from a dream to the world we live in today, a world with peace, liberty, justice, security, diversity, and abundance for all, with no one left behind. Namaste.